welcome. Welcome. So let's start with the basics and some things. It's funny. A lot of this will be obvious to a lot of you, and some of it you might be like, "Oh yeah, I didn't do that." So the space you work in affects your client's sort of experience. So just some things to think about as you go through. You want, obviously, climate control that's appropriate, and that's not appropriate for you. It's appropriate for sort of all people. So you need air conditioning and you need heat. I mean, it depends where you live in the country, but you need a really reasonable. It cannot be too hot for someone when they walk in. And in fact, I go so far as when I know a client, I change the temperature based on what they can handle. So just keep that in mind. A place to sit and talk comfortably. Chairs, not the floor. I mean, many people like the floor, but just because we're yogis and we like the floor, everyone doesn't. So make sure you have some sort of setup for interviewing like that. You really need a sense of privacy. So if you're working in an office, you just shut the door. But if you're working in a yoga studio, make sure the door closes and locks and is covered, like if it's glass, so that the person feels secure. Even if no one's coming in, it's not really about that. It's about how they feel about it. If you don't work in your house, this isn't a hard and fast rule, but try not to work in your house. And if you do work in your house, try to have a separate entrance or an entrance where basically the client doesn't see your stuff and take on your baggage. It's about them, not you. So try to make that if it is in your house, they can walk in cleanly and not see, your kids' toys or the fact that you don't do the dishes or whatever. And it's also hard on you because then you have to do the dishes every time someone's coming over. Make sure you have props, match blocks, blankets, straps, things to make people comfortable so you can be hospitable, water, a place to make tea, even some snacks. I don't keep a lot of snacks, but I always have an apple and some almonds and a few little things in case someone's really hungry and they were rushing to see you. Something that you might not think of, a lot of people do in their offices, no family photos, no photos of your kids or whatever. People don't need to be thinking of that or be triggered with their own stuff. So I actually have, through this door here, is a little back sort of office with a desk. That's where pictures of my kids and stuff are, but nobody ever sees them. So just a thought on that. Yoga stuff, deities and statues and things are fine if they're actually meaningful to you. Here's a few, right? But not, you got to be able to speak about them in a personal way and in a general way. Here's a medicine Buddha. It's a Thai medicine Buddha, and I do Thai massage actually, and I'm also a yoga therapist. And it was given to me by somebody who I love, and it's a symbol generally in cultures for healing. Things like it's a symbol of healing. You want to be able to you don't want to have a dancing Shiva and be like, I have no idea who that is, because it could wreck their confidence in you. But also you want to have some sort of personal connection to the things in your room. So even if something's given to you and you don't know a lot about it, it's this was given to me by my first yoga teacher, that kind of thing. So that's the physical space. Many more things you could think about, but those are the general things. I've been getting a lot of questions about, well, how do I start? I don't have any clients. I don't want to rent an office and pay, $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. Some ideas. Often therapists, like psychotherapists and licensed social workers and such, have extra space. Also massage therapists. But therapists usually have nice setups. They have 2 chairs and a couch. And if it's a bigger office, then there'd be a space to do yoga. See if you can rent from there hourly or by the day. Look on Craigslist, and don't be afraid to negotiate. I've rented my office several times because I don't work here at night, weekends, and there's the amount I want. But when I get a good tenant or somebody who is starting out who I want to help, I'm usually happy to rent it to them for less because it's just sitting here otherwise. look for like a set rate, like per hour or per half day or per day. Don't do the per client thing. Like I'll give you $10, per client. It seems good for you because you feel like, well, if I don't have any clients, I don't pay. But actually, it makes it so you can't use the office unless you have clients. And there's something really good about being able to go to your office, maybe like do some paying client and then work with a friend because you're just starting out, or be able to do reduced rate things. So you don't want to have your money be tied up with your landlord's money. And then the other things is negotiate a place that you can do storage. So, you can store your props somewhere, make sure that's available. And make sure you have Wi-Fi so that if you want to use some of that time to work on building your practice and get on the computer and booking appointments, that's available to you. So that's the office stuff. It's not too complicated. Most places you can find a pretty reasonable office for this kind of work. People aren't expecting to be wowed in our business. That's not why they're coming to you. A couple little businessy things. Make sure you have insurance, and insurance still in our line of work is the same as yoga teacher insurance. So I think I use Insurance Plus. I think Yoga Journal offers it. I mean, all the associations offer it. It's $150 to $200 a year for $2 million or so. Don't skip this, even if you're broke. It's cheap because usually hardly anyone gets sued. But the two scenarios where you would need insurance are, let me just give you fake scenarios, but this is the kind of thing that would happen. Someone trips on the stair leaving your office and breaks their arm and their nose. They go to a lawyer, that's because they don't have any money, right? And they want to sue so they can get their medical bills paid. But what the lawyer does is sues everyone, right? They sue your landlord. They're not your stairs, but still, they sue the landlord, they sue you, they sue the people upstairs, right? And you're going to have to defend yourself. And if you have insurance, your insurance will pay for your lawyer. So you're not going to lose that case, but that's not really the point. You don't want to drop, $10,000 defending yourself against a lawsuit when it wasn't your fault. And the other scenario, I think, that motivates me to pay my insurance bill is your client does a session with you. It goes great. She leaves in a great mood. Then she dies in her sleep that night. And her brother, who doesn't know you, gets in his head that the fact that you made her do, an inversion caused her stroke. And he sues you. And it's morbid, I know, but, that's a big lawsuit. And for $150, you can be defended against that. The likelihood that you'd be sued, again, is low, but it's definitely worth it. That's $150 per year. So, it's not expensive. So you got your office, you got your insurance, you got your reasonable work clothes, right? And then you're going to have to figure out, the next thing I want to talk about is pricing. So, and I get a lot of questions about this. So the first thing to understand in this line of work in a private practice is that you do not make your hourly rate in profit. So, if you charge $85 an hour, you do not make $85 an hour. That's just what you're charging, like any business. So, some of the things you might pay for, right, are rent and utilities, insurance, like we were just talking about, training, continuing education. If you're going through my big course, you might spend $15,000, right? Like that's a lot of money you got to pay back. Updating equipment, all the time you're not in session, right? Making phone calls, answering emails, writing blog posts to promote yourself, researching your client's medical conditions, not on the clock, creating advertisements. So this can really add up. So in my practice, if especially when I have a lot of new clients coming in, if I see 25 clients, that's full-time work. There's time between clients, there's all the researching, and even to get those is probably more than full-time work because I have to make people know about me. So you're not getting paid for all your time. So what I would suggest is have that in mind. You can't ever do an exact formula with that. People have tried, and I've actually taken a course where they gave us a formula, and that formula turns out not really to be true. Because what happens is you sort of front load, and you do a lot of marketing work for the first 3 to 5 years of your practice, and then people know about you if you do well, and then you do less marketing work. Maybe you write a blog once a month and run one ad. I don't know, to promote some clinic you're doing. But it's not, that slows down. So it evens out over time, but it's really hard to get that exact. But one thing you could do is look at other health professionals in your area, like acupuncture, massage therapy, and therapists, and price yourself sort of in the middle of that. So, around here right now, I would say that is between $65 and $120 is like the range. I right now charge $120. I'm on the higher end. I'm also your teacher and been doing this a long time. I think if I was starting right now, I might price myself at $80 an hour. Would be reasonable. And here's why. If you want to charge someone less, you could always reduce your rate. But you can never charge more. So, you can't say, oh, you have a lot of money, why don't you give me $170 an hour? It doesn't work that way, right? So, some people like to offer sliding scales. I would really recommend not doing that. Price yourself, and if a client asks you to charge less, you can make that individual decision. The other possibility is you can slide, but you don't advertise it, and this makes you look way more professional. The people are like, how much do you cost? You look them dead in the eye. You have one answer, right? You don't have three answers. You're like, I'm $80 an hour. You go, oh, okay. And then if they say, wow, I don't think I can afford that, but I really wish I could work with you because this thing's really chronic, you could say something like, I do have some sliding scale spots. If you'd like to come in and talk to me about it, we can do that. So it looks more like that. The other possibility is you can work with people for free, and I've done that where I sort of have my rate, and then, I encounter someone who's really suffering, and I just work with them, in a specific way for a specific period of time, and I don't charge them. So for me, that's a little cleaner because getting $15 from somebody who's poor, it doesn't help me that much, you know what I mean? And it hurts them. So I figure, why even bother doing that? You can make your own decisions, but I would definitely stick to your rate unless there's a really good reason not to. The other possibility is someone has something really chronic and they're like, look, it's a little pricey for me to pay $80 an hour because I think I'm going to be coming here twice a week for the next 3 years. And you sort of work that out. You're like, well, I'm willing to do less. And one of the reasons for that is someone who comes twice a week and you really know them is actually easier. You're not doing as much research and work outside. So not only they're a good client, but they're taking less time outside the hour or whatever they're with you. So it's just something to think about. But in general, you're being paid for your time. So you have the rate you're making per hour, and that's your rate. It's really hard, to get a raise in this business. It's like you have your rate, let's say you start at $8 an hour, and you raise it every year for inflation. So every year you go up $5. You're not going to really be making more money because all the other costs in your life go up too. So when I went to massage therapy school, someone gave me that piece of advice, actually. She looked at us and said, look, you're never going to get a raise. Never. So start at a rate that you're happy with now. And that was actually pretty good advice. So that's rates. Don't be shy because you're new, you're getting paid for your time, and people in our society need money to live. So yes, you can bump it a little if you have a lot of experience or a specific area of expertise or you're in demand. But generally, just like a therapist you might go to, they charge what they charge. They charge $90 an hour. That's just what it is. Whether they're a year out of school or 5 years out of school, it doesn't really necessarily change that much. And you should look at it that way too. All right, so let's look at marketing a little bit and how to get people to come see you. So yoga therapy is still an unknown modality. Yoga is really popular, but yoga therapy is just getting going, right? Not getting going, but getting known. Your potential clients are going to need a two-step process to become a customer. First, they're going to need to know what yoga therapy is and is not. And second, they're going to need to be sold on working with you specifically. So it's a sales process. And even though we work from a like yogic space with things, it's still a sales process. So we're going to have an ethical sales process that helps everyone involved. And what I'd like you to think about is think about a time that you bought something and you were really pleased with the process and the results. Maybe a house or a car or another healing professional. So let's look at a couple of examples. So let's say you go to buy a house. You call a realtor and you speak with them. You tell them you've never owned a home, right? But your friends told you it's a great idea. The realtor explains to you that the market's great for buyers and that there are really good tax deductions for owning a home, which is true. They also explain that now you need to take care of a house and that's the trade-off, right? And then you tell them, you say, look, home maintenance totally freaks me out. I'm really stressed. I don't want it, thinking about fixing the plumbing just, makes me want to cry. I'll be full of anxiety all the time. So the realtor says, well, there's another path you could take, and that would be buying a condo. Maybe you pay a little more, in the end, but you never have to worry, and maybe that would be worth it to you. You don't worry about major repairs because the condo association takes care of that. And you go, wow, that sounds a lot better to me, right? The realtor refers you to a mortgage broker that they've had good success with. That mortgage broker finds you the perfect mortgage and helps you do all the paperwork. And then you buy a condo and you don't have to maintain it. And the whole process works out and you're really happy. Now, I know that sounds nothing like yoga therapy, but this is an example of a useful and ethical sales process, right? You were listened to. You consented to all the decisions. You weren't just like, oh, I have to do this or that, right? Everyone had your best interests in mind, right? And the results were really good given your situation, And of course, there's many places that sales process could have gone wrong. The realtor could have tried to sold you a single family home because they had a lot in their inventory. You could have been directed to their scammy mortgage broker who got you a mortgage that was too high, but that didn't happen, right? So then you start telling all your friends and you're like, wow, I had this great experience buying a house, and if you need a house, you should go to this person because it was really great for me. So our sales process should look something like this, right? So a client finds out about you somehow, like a friend, a professional referral, right? An advertisement. They call or email you, and then the question is like, what's your process, like generally. So this is one way your process could look. You set up a 10 to 15 minute phone call, and this is what my process looks like, and I ask them what they want help with, and get a general idea why they're coming in. I ask them what they know about yoga therapy, and I give them an elevator speech about yoga therapy, right? So they have some sort of idea. Talk to them a little bit about that. I'll talk about elevator speeches in a minute. And then I determine if I could possibly help them. And if I think there's any chance I could, I schedule an hour appointment and to do a thorough intake and discussion to see if we're a good match. I sometimes charge for that and sometimes don't. I do charge for that now. I used to not charge for the intakes and sort of presented that as more time for us to get to know each other, see if we're a good match. And in that, I give them a rough idea of the way we would need to work with each other, rough. And that includes how often or how many sessions. Is this a one-off? Is this a long-term thing? So they can think about that. And they either say, oh, that sounds great, or I want to think about it. We set up a time to talk again on the phone, and that's how that works. So there's like a little process for them to get educated, right? So there's space for them to ask questions, and there's space for me to explain what I do. And I look at that as education, and in a way it's marketing, right? Even when you've got the person, it's still marketing. It's like, I'm educating you on my product right now. I'm on the phone, say, this is my product, yoga therapy, that you know nothing about, say. So I'm gonna educate you on it, and then you can decide based on that whether you think it's a good fit. So that's the way that works, and that could look really good. I mean, another thing that could happen in that process is you could say, after this intake, let me do a little more research, and I'll send you some things on yoga therapy for arthritis that I think would be useful. If you're really on it, what you do is find out they're coming in for arthritis in that phone call. So when they show up for their intake, you have printed or emailed them some documents being like, here's a couple studies I found that you might find interesting. And that, as a sales process, will often sell them.